Hey, welcome back to the Minutemen Initiative. Today we're going to be talking about EDC, or Everyday Carry, and this is kind of the first part of what will most likely end up being a multi-part series on the topic of everyday carry. And we're starting with what most people start with, which is a handgun. More often than not, people choose to start carrying a handgun, and then a lot of other lifestyle changes within the kind of EDC culture and the everyday carry mentality start to follow after that. So we're going to talk about that, break down a lot of things surrounding that today. And we're just really excited about the things we cover in this episode, and we hope you enjoy it. What's happening?
Oh man, we're just we're here, we're recording, and another great day.
Yeah, today's a lot better than when was that, Tuesday? So we're over there working on the range, which, by the way, we've been getting questions like, when's the range going to be open? Hopefully soon. We're hoping like the beginning or like mid-July. So we'll see what happens. There's a lot of really weird like logistical insurance related things that have to get completely ironed out before we can really set a date.
And also there's just lots of dirt to move around.
Yeah, well, that's going pretty good.
A lot better than I expected.
But that's what I was going to say is Tuesday we were over there working on it, and we had a whole row of HESCOs lined up, which we're using HESCO barriers as our side containment for our bays, for our shooting bays, because it saves a lot of space on like at the base. So instead of doing like a berm, it's like a structure that you fill with dirt. It's still a ballistic barrier, but it's only like 4 feet wide versus, potentially being like 20 feet wide at the base of a berm. So that's why we're using those, saving real estate. They look a lot nicer. Well, anyways, they're like these galvanized steel cages that kind of accordion out, like they're all kind of connected together in cells. The ones we got, one unit is 5 cells, so it's like 5 squares all connected together, and then you like use these steel rods, these 1/4-inch steel rods, to kind of like connect them together through these coils. So they mesh together and get connected, and then you use these little clips up on the top. So we got this whole run, of 90-foot run out for a 30-yard range, basically, and we got them all connected. And we're sitting there, and I'm on the ladder, like putting the little clips on in between the cells, which you know how much of a pain in the butt that is.
Oh yeah,
that's like you got to cut the felt, put these little clips on, and spin them around, and it's a pain. And excuse me, I hear Colton go, "Oh no!" And I'm on the ladder, and I turn around and look at him, and his end, like I'm like a little bit farther down the line. I was on my last section, so I had 18 feet behind me because each unit's 18 feet. And I see him like holding on like for dear life, and his whole side, basically a big gust of wind came in and just blew them all down. So they all like accordioned down.
And this is obviously before they have dirt in them.
Yeah. So we were setting them up to fill them with dirt, and you're supposed to get your run all set up because you have to connect them together. So if you try to fill them with dirt and then connect them together, they're going to be all bulged out. So it's like almost impossible to get them connected,
Yeah.
I mean, you could if you absolutely had to, but you'd have to get after it. So it's easier to do it ahead of time. But we had this whole run established, and we're building them up. We need them elevated a little bit for a little more height, and also just to keep them out of keep them protected from like frost and stuff in the winter. So they're up on these like little 3-foot berms, and so they fell down the side of these berms, and so they're all laying like inverted now, like sideways, all folded in on themselves. And I was on that ladder when they fell, and they just fell away from me, and I just stood on that ladder for like a full minute, just like looking off into the distance, just like, yep, this is so much work now. because I knew like we were going to have to go through and disconnect each unit, because there's no standing that whole lineup. These things are pretty heavy, and
it was gusting pretty good that day too,
dude,
like everywhere.
It was crazy
because I was in Kenai at the time and it was blowing pretty good, which it's always more windy in Kenai. So I didn't really even, like, when you were like, yeah, I got blown over, I was kind of like, man, I can't believe it's that windy up there in Soldotna.
Yeah, no, it was super windy, and we we got a few more set up, and we were like sprinkling some dirt in them just to like kind of get them anchored, Yeah. So we had to kind of do it in reverse order a little bit. Just like in the middle of each run, we put like a fair amount of dirt into it, and we were kind of doing that and going down the line. And I think we got like 2 or 3 units up, and it just got so windy. Like even the individual units were trying to like blow over, as we were setting them up.
Yeah.
And we were like, nah. But so anyways, I'm glad we got that done. We ended up getting it all done. And so that one's all up and filled with dirt now.
You guys just did it a couple days later, right?
Yeah. Well, we did it literally the next morning.
Okay.
I was like, I only have time in the morning. We got to meet early and get it done. So we did it. So that was good. But anyways, let's get started. Today we are going to be getting into EDC, also known as everyday carry. You'll hear EDC, like that phrase, pretty often, and that's what it stands for. At least in these circles in this industry, it's everyday carry. And, what is everyday carry? Well, it's super simple. It's literally what you have on you every day.
Yep.
I mean, it's exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I just wanted to break down what that acronym was, because I've had a lot of people be like, EDC, like, we'll use the hashtag and stuff. Like, oh, do you guys listen to that dance music? Because it's also like somehow EDC. I know there's EDM, which is like...
Yeah. I didn't know
electric dance music,
but
EDC has something to do with it as well.
Oh,
so
I have no idea.
I'm not sure what it is, but like, no, it means everyday carry. But anyways, so it can be both if you want it to be. You can have your everyday carry, and then that can include your electric dance music. So that's fine.
I'm curious now what it is.
Yeah, look it up. But anyways, so we're going to get into that a little bit, and specifically talking about choosing your handgun and just handgun in general. I think for most people...
It stands for Electric Daisy Carnival.
What?
Yeah. And it's a band.
Oh.
It's a band that does EDM. Or no, wait, maybe not.
Or is it like a subgenre?
I'd have to look into it more, but yeah, it has to do with EDM somehow or another.
Okay. Weird. Yeah, so
doesn't really matter. It's not what
electric,
we're talking about.
Not electric daisy carnival. We're talking about everyday carry.
It's so random.
That is so random. It sounds like a weird like niche like horror film or something.
Like, Electric Daisy Carnival.
Yeah, like I don't know. Or like it sounds like it'd be related to it, or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sounds like a place I don't want to go.
Yeah. So anyways, the reason we're starting with handgun is because I feel like for a lot of people, the whole EDC, the whole everyday carry, I just keep thinking of Electric Daisy Carnival now. The whole everyday carry kind of genre, I think, is birthed from people making the decision to start carrying a handgun. I think a handgun in many ways is kind of the catalyst for like this overall mentality.
I don't know. I think it starts with a knife, dude.
It might, but I feel like
for me personally, like I started carrying a knife way before I started carrying a gun. Like, because I was carrying a knife when I was a kid.
For sure, but you probably didn't really think intentionally about like your everyday carry setup until after you got into the gun.
But I mean, it was your everyday carry in a way. Like you always had a pocket knife. Like that's, I think at least like in our generation of boys growing up, like our dads, if we had dads in the picture, but for me and you, our dad, like, yeah, carry a Leatherman or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's something you can use. Me and you usually just carried folders, I think, growing up. But
yeah. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that, because for sure I carried a knife well before I ever carried a gun. I mean, same thing, but I feel like I didn't start to go down the intentional path of everyday carry, like thinking about what do I need on me, like what are the bare essentials I need on me at all times.
Yeah.
Until I got more into the gun side of things.
No, I agree.
And I think that that's not true for everyone. I don't want to say that, but I think for most it is. I think once you just start carrying a gun, that forces a lot of people, you get like a new perspective. You're like, okay, well, if I'm carrying a gun, like what else do I need?
Yeah.
And then you start to go down the kind of the rabbit hole that is EDC, and it can get ridiculous. I'm honestly a pretty minimalist person. I carry
and I think by being minimalist, it allows you to actually do it more like actually it is legitimately a daily carry. Where some people carry so much that it becomes a burden, and it's like, well, I can't actually do like the things that I can't just go, go do like the daily stuff that I do,
Right.
getting in and out of vehicles and whatever it may be. If you're carrying like an entire laundry list of just gear, you just look like Batman out there.
Yeah. Just utility belting around.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. And so I guess the reason we're starting, I don't know. When we were contemplating this, I'm like, man, should we start with mentality? Like, I think part one of everyday carry should be our mindset, mindset / mentality. And the reason we decided to start with handgun is I think if you clicked on this episode and you're listening to it, there's a chance you could have clicked on it because, specifically we're going to be talking about handguns. Handguns are just, it's what gets people into it. It's what gets people interested, the gun side of it. And that's pretty much in general. But we're going to take this opportunity to tell you that having a good mindset, having a mentality, or having the right mentality is king in this situation. And I think that's why it's really important to, as we get into handguns and stuff and start talking about it, we're going to kind of break down like what you should look for in a handgun. If you're already carrying a handgun every day, this might be a good way to kind of like audit what you have. Like, does it make sense? Do I have something that, that I'm really happy with? Am I not, have I not worked with it enough to know if I'm happy with it?
Yeah.
So that's going to be kind of what we're breaking down. But ultimately, I think one of the most important things you can have is a good why. Like, why do you want to carry a handgun? I think that the why gets lost. And it shouldn't. I think the why is one of the most important parts. For me, it's to protect, ultimately it's to protect my family. It's because I know, there's a lot more reasons than that, but that is the ultimate why for me. I know that a firearm is a force equalizer. If I'm proficient with it, if I'm trained with it, if I understand how, when, and where to use it, and more importantly, in some ways, when not to, I understand those things, and then I have the right tools, and the right tool set or skill set for the tools, then I'm able to defend my family with great efficiency and effectiveness.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I can defend my family against a human that's bigger and stronger than me. I can defend my family from wildlife. That's a very real concern where we live. We have bear here, and they are everywhere, especially this time of year.
Actually, most of the animals we have here are a concern.
Yeah.
In Alaska, at least.
Yeah.
Moose kill more people than bear.
So
that's just because you see more of them, I think. I think that's more of a... Bear are 100% more dangerous, but moose, there's just more of them here.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, because I think if you run into a bear, your chances of like having a bad altercation with that bear are probably higher than if you run into a moose. Because I run into moose all the time, and it's usually just like, oh, there's a moose, But if and anytime you run into a bear, it's like a completely different monster. It's like, well, literally, because that thing is actually a monster.
Yeah.
But it's a different thing. It's like, oh crap, we got a bear. Like, the whole like attitude changes. But and that's what I'm saying is that it is a handgun or a gun in general It's one of the most effective fighting tools we have currently in the modern world.
Yeah.
Back in the day, back before the invention of, projectile weapons and, gunpowder and stuff like that, people carried swords, people carried knives, people carried
spears,
blades of different kinds,
bow and arrows.
And it was a normal thing. People carried on them.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I think it's super important to carry a handgun, but I think it's important to know why you want to do it and to have a clear why, not just because, other people are doing it. No, you need to have a reason why you're choosing to do this, because it's not convenient.
No.
It's not more comfortable than not carrying one.
Yeah.
It's a big responsibility. It's a massive responsibility. It gives you in a way, it gives you the power to make life and death decisions. And that ultimately comes down to your judgment. So that's a massive thing you got to think about. It's a big deal. And I think a lot of people, and this whole speech is not to say like, you shouldn't buy a gun unless you have a really good reason to do so. No, I think if you want to buy a gun, you should be able to buy a gun,
But actually carrying it, that's where you need to kind of have a sit down moment to actually think about, because it's a big deal, and I think a lot of people just kind of, I wouldn't say a lot of people. I think most people are pretty mature in the fact that they know, okay, if I'm carrying a gun, it's a big deal. Like, I think most people do take it seriously, but there is a lot. I would say it's about, I don't want to but about half and half. Like, you got about half people that take it really, really seriously, and the other half just throw a gun on because they think it's the cool thing to do.
Yeah.
But it's like, man, if you actually have to use it, I hope you've thought about,
the implications.
The why, because that's going to ultimately make you more effective with it, I think.
Yeah. Well, and it gives you, it allows you to consider, the value of life, like understanding the value of life and really having a good mindset around life in general, I think is super important. If you don't value life, then you're no different from someone out there that may be trying to do you harm.
Yep.
You have to value human life. You have to value the lives of others. I mean, that person or that threat or whatever that you're dealing with, it would have to be a person in this case, but if you're dealing with someone that means you and your family or whatever your situation is, means you harm, that person has a family, that person has a life, they've made bad decisions to get to where they are. So it's a heavy thing. And I can't, this is going to be mainly about handguns and everything involving that, but I can't in good conscience talk about just, here's what kind of handguns we recommend without first talking about like developing a good, strong mindset around carrying a gun daily.
Yeah.
Because it's a lifestyle change, the decision. And if it's something you're already doing and you're hearing this and you're like, man, I don't like this. I just put it on. Cool, dude. But like, have a moment where you sit down and really reflect. Maybe read some books. There's some really good books out there. And we're going to do a completely different, part on this EDC topic is going to come up a lot. It's going to be something that we have multiple parts on, and mindset is going to be a whole episode because there's a lot of things here that I really want to get into. But I think the reality is like I was saying, most people start with the gun. Most people are like, all right, I bought a gun. I really want to start carrying this gun, So to get to that point, have a good why. Have a good, solid, you've thought about it, why, why you want to carry. And yeah, really, really ask yourself, is it a good enough reason? And once you've done that, then you can
say, I think most people that are going to be carrying obviously have the most of their whys are going to be just preservation of life themselves, and like in case they need to use it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Against someone doing harm, you know. And if it is family, even preservation of your own life is in a way protecting your family, because if you provide for your family, then you're keeping yourself alive so you can continue to provide for your family.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know.
Yep.
I feel like most people are going to be like, yeah, I mean, it's to save my own life.
Yeah. And that's a perfectly good why. But I guess just make sure you've thought about it. Like actually think about like, yeah. So I'm carrying it to potentially end someone's life to in you know, preservation of my own.
Yeah.
That right there is a that's a serious thing. That's a serious decision. Like, you know, if it comes down to that, if it's you or them and your life is 100% threatened and you're like, dang, this is something I have to do. That's something you should have come to terms with before you start caring is I guess the big thing.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. I carry a gun, so I have the option to end someone else's life in preservation of my own. So that's it's just important to consider and really break down within your own understanding and own kind of thought process.
Yeah.
So with that being said, like we mentioned, this is going to be mindset will be a whole other part of this kind of series, but we're going to start with the handgun. So in my head, it's kind of out of order, but like I said, I mean, most people start there, so we're going to kind of work up to it like that. So what's the very first thing you do? Well, you choose a handgun, you know, and this is kind of the fun part. We've said it a lot in this podcast, but buying gear is easy. That's the easy part. Yep. You know, you buy the gear, you know, and this is where, and we're not going to get too crazy on like, you should buy this gun or you shouldn't buy that, you know, that doesn't matter. Instead, I want to focus on what are things that are good, kind of details to focus on when buying a gun. So
there's a lot of things. So like, obviously reliability, you know, if it doesn't shoot when you want it to shoot, then that's going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
Like, obviously.
Well, and it sounds
unless you're Denzel Washington on Man on Fire or something, you know.
I don't remember that part.
It never lies.
Oh. Yeah. So it sounds dumb. Like that might sound like, well, yeah, but I can't tell you how many times I've seen people sacrifice reliability in order to carry some gun that's like in their mind really cool or iconic or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
Or like this is a family heirloom or something. You know, those things happen. And I get that, and people have sentimental value and or have like preference towards certain things, but never sacrifice reliability for one of those things.
If it's a family heirloom, then put it in the safe and keep passing it down, but don't
go shoot it just when you want to go shooting, you know.
Yeah. Well, no, I know. Yeah, you obviously shoot it, but I'm just saying, like, don't rely on it to save your life if you actually are in, like, I mean, if things actually happen to the point where you're actually having to pull your firearm out, you've pretty much decided, okay, I'm shooting this person. Like,
yeah.
So
yeah,
I don't know, that kind of stuff I'm so confused by. I can't even wrap my mind around people that are like, yeah, I'm just using this because it's cool. It's a cool gun to carry. And it's like, yeah, but it's really not that cool because there's potential that it doesn't work.
Yeah. If you have a malfunction every other mag or even every mag, that's not it. That's not the one.
No.
Because I'm telling you, the way the world works, the odds are that weird time that gun malfunctions is going to be right when you need it. That's just how that stuff happens.
Yeah. Like, I mean, we're Glock guys. Let's be real.
Yeah.
I know we said we weren't going to pitch guns, but what I'm just trying
buy
to
a Glock.
What I'm just trying to get to, I'm not saying Glock's the end all be all.
No, definitely not.
But as far as reliability is concerned, they have a great track record for it.
Yeah.
There's other guns that do too. I can't tell you the last time I've had a malfunction with my Glock where I haven't actually forced it to happen. I don't know if it ever has happened actually.
Yeah,
and I run my gun hard and I get it dirty and I throw it in the mud and I don't care. Like I'm
we're
rough
not
on
picky
it.
about ammo either.
No.
We run all kinds of just
And
crappy ammo through it.
Go into that. I mean, obviously pick good ammo when you're running for self-defense
For carrying. Mm-hmm.
That's going to be part of it. Like if you can have the most reliable gun in the world, but if you're not buying ammo from a reliable source, then it's probably not going to do you much good.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, and this isn't to say to buy Glocks because I know some people just hate Glocks.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Which on that, I mean, I'm sorry, but stop being a hipster. There's the hipsters in the gun world. Like, be a hipster with your like have fun. Like buy setups that are unique. Do that. Like go crazy with it, sure. But when it comes to carrying something, carry something that's gonna work. Carry something that actually makes sense. Look around at the industry. This is something that I harp on a lot. Look at what the professionals are carrying. And like, why are they all carrying the same gun? Well, because that gun works and they've got a ton of data to back up that thing working in some pretty adverse situations.
Yeah.
So just, put your uniqueness aside.
And you also got to think about from the fact of like parts are going to be easier to find with those because there's more manufacturers. There's more people making aftermarket parts and also just OEM parts, for guns that are actually being used and got contracts with military law enforcement agencies and things like that. So
yeah,
it's going to be, I mean, yeah, there's also the argument that it gets used too much and that you can't find anything, but I haven't really noticed that.
Yeah.
So.
No, for sure. So yeah, there's that as well. The other big one that I want to touch on is the size of the gun. So
yeah,
right now, and the market's kind of like flooded with them. There's all these companies are coming out with like subcompact guns.
Yeah,
like man, and it's, I know for whatever reason, I know it's like, I think it's that's really small. It's not gonna be as hard to carry. But I'm telling you right now, it's easier to shoot a full-size handgun or close to full size. I am not a fan at all of subcompacts. I'm kind of a subcompact hater. So I'm sure part of the audience just checked out. Well, I don't want to hear any more about this, what this guy has to say, because I only buy subcompacts. Cool. But have you actually sat down and thought about it? Have you actually compared how they shoot with each other?
And just performance,
Yeah. Longer barrels are better. Larger ammo capacity is 100% better. Having a full grip on the handgun is better. Better recoil management. And oddly enough, depending on how you carry, gonna be easier to carry a bigger gun. It's gonna be more comfortable.
Yeah, I think if you're carrying appendix, which I would say most people are switching over to that, and if you haven't switched over to that, I would say consider it. I don't think everyone should necessarily switch over to appendix, but I'm saying from from hiding the gun to, well, actually, let's start with what's more important, but being able to be efficient with the gun, effective and efficient and quick, being able to get to it. It's in a good place. It's in a natural place there. I think for larger weapon or larger handgun, not like large, but I mean a full size handgun.
Yeah,
you can rock appendix all day long, and you're gonna be able to hide it better.
Yeah, and it's gonna be more comfortable because you've got more of a it's more got more distribution.
Yeah.
So, and that's dependent on how you're carrying, obviously, like Steven was saying, but. The footprint of the holster when it's really small can create more hot spots and things like that, depending on, how you're carrying. Sometimes it can be, if it doesn't go down into your pants far enough, it can be kicked out. Like the grip can be kicked out and it can print easier. So it's not always true that if you get some small little handgun that it's going to be the easiest to carry and the easiest to hide. That's not always the case.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So
And for some people, it might be the case. I'm not saying that this is the end all be all, but I think a good rule of thumb is carry the biggest handgun you can, within reason. I mean, I'm not saying carry a Mark 23 concealed because an HK Mark 23 is a massive gun, or a Desert Eagle. I'm not saying that. But if you can carry like a Glock 17, a full size Glock, like a standard size handgun, then great. For me, the smallest gun I'll ever carry is a Glock 19, and that is my carry gun. And it's like a little bit shorter in the frame and the slide than a 17. You carry a 19X, which has the same frame size as a 17, but has the slide length of a 19. So
yeah, but it's compensated too.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It's actually basically like a Glock 34.
Yeah. That's true too.
But I mean, if you're carrying a full-size light on your handgun, then there's no reason not to just use up that space. That's kind of where you're putting that much down in your pants regardless.
Yeah.
And like I saw the description of someone, I can't remember who it was, but there was like the comparison of how much, like you were talking about earlier, smaller guns print more above the belt line because there's less material or firearm underneath the belt line to kind of like counter,
to leverage it.
Yeah. So it's like a seesaw that you're got, basically, well, not really a seesaw, but the best way to describe it is like a boat. I can't remember who was talking about this, but I was like, that is a perfect way to describe it. If you have a flat bottom boat, that thing's going to be way more rocky and potential to flip over, like out in the ocean. You don't want to take that out in the ocean. Where if you have a boat that has more a keel underneath the water, it's going to be a lot more stable. And I was like, man, that's a good way to put it, I guess. It's kind of crazy, but
yeah,
basically the same thing. It's going to ride a lot more stable and not really move as much on you.
Yeah. And that's, and we'll get into a little more of that when we get to the holster part of the discussion, but that's, I think a lot of people look at just size and they're like, okay, I want my footprint to be as small as possible, but then they don't start to consider consistency, like ride consistency, and, your holster not moving all around a bunch. You don't want that. You want it to be roughly in the same spot at all times. So yeah, and more often than not, you can get that, out of bigger platforms or bigger than subcompact,
Yeah.
can be a little more consistent and actually ride nicer. So, yeah, the other thing too is, ammo capacity over caliber. So, ammunition's a big one, and, you hear 9mm versus 45 debates still to this day. Yeah. I think it's died off a lot more than what it used to be. I think the 45 crowd has gotten smaller. But
yeah.
The fact of the matter is, and I don't want to get into a big ammunition discussion. That's not, I honestly don't care. Like, I get annoyed with it. But the reason I get annoyed is because the data is very clear. Almost all handgun ammunitions nowadays perform so close to the same that the differences do not matter. These like false ideas and these misconceptions out there about like 45 or some of these bigger calibers just absolutely smashing people are just not true anymore.
No.
If you have a modern handgun with modern handgun ammunition, well, honestly, it's just the modern ammunition. Any modern ammunition nowadays, they're all performing at such a similar level. Like, now does 45 create a bigger wound channel than 9mm? Yes, it does, but negligibly so.
Yeah, and honestly,
it's
not really
different.
It's not as much the wound channel, but more about the energy of the round impacting.
Yeah.
Like if you look at impacts of rounds into like human, like we got those in our trauma training. We go over gunshot wounds, and you're looking at the cavitation created by the energy of the bullet. And if that bullet's coming in, you look at 5.56 and it just does damage because it's coming in so hot.
Yeah.
Your 9 mil is going to be it's going to be moving with potentially more energy than your 45. Like your 45 is, yes, going to, I don't want to say that knockdown, like everyone talks about the knockdown. Yeah, it's a
45's got more energy.
It's got more energy, but I'm saying like
9 millimeters moving faster.
Yeah, moving faster, which creates energy within the wound cavity itself.
Yeah,
because it's moving through. It's the same argument as like 7.62 by 39 versus 5.56. It's like, okay, yeah, it's a bigger bullet, but the 5.56 does just as good at killing people as this is like. So your ARs are going to do just as good as your AKs at killing people.
Yeah, and I think what a lot of people get hung up on is they get so hyper focused on like, well, I need to have more of an advantage, so I'm going to get 10 millimeter or I'm going to get 45 or 357 SIG or whatever it is. And yes, those are hotter rounds, but negligibly so. Like that's what I'm trying to say. Like, what do you sacrifice? You sacrifice capacity.
Capacity kills.
The data shows that time and time again that the side that had more ammunition won.
Yep.
It's true in
and
combat. It's true in like engagements. It's true in civilian conflicts, self-defense situations. More often than not, you want to have as much ammo as possible. It gives you more of an advantage. It's overall better. So focus on capacity. Now there is a line, and I know that now you've got, well, if with that mentality you could get a 22 and it holds a 25 bullet. Yeah, well, you know what? Yeah, if you, I mean, there's 100% a line. I think if you stay in the main kind of handgun caliber realm, 9mm, 40 cal, 45, 357 SIG, 10 millimeter, 45. Did I already say that?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you stay in that area, all the standard kind of handgun ammunitions, semi-auto handgun ammunitions, any of those is fine. But there's a reason why you see 9mm so much, and it's because out of all of those, you can carry more 9mm. And like we said before, that 9mm is going to perform very similar, not saying better, but very similarly to all the other ones listed.
Yeah.
And ultimately, handgun ammunition sucks. Like it's trash. Like that's,
yeah.
Compared to rifle rounds, handgun ammunition doesn't perform very well.
That's why, you're not seeing infantry guys with handguns strapped to their legs as much as you see them with ARs and saws and just their primary weapons.
Yeah.
Like we'll just sacrifice the weight of a handgun to carry more rifle rounds.
Yeah, exactly. And it makes perfect sense. And we get asked that a lot. Like, well, why'd you guys not get issued handguns? Because you don't want to switch to a handgun when you're in the middle of a big fight like that. You want to reload your main rifle and keep rocking and rolling.
I'm not saying not to also carry a handgun like when you're running a rifle. I'm just saying people are going to like, oh, well, those guys don't carry handguns with the rifles. Well, Met TC, dude. Met TC.
Yeah, there's Met TC again, the Minutemen Initiative.
No, we have to throw it in there.
I know. So
it's got to get in there somewhere. I don't think there's any other place for it to fit in here. So
yeah. So, anyways, don't get so bogged down with like what caliber it is, and also don't be like religiously attached to a caliber. Like I only carry 45. That's the only thing I carry. It's the only thing I'll ever carry. Oh, okay, dude. Like, calm down. Do your research. Look into it. And if it is the only thing you carry,
45, then go for it.
Sweet. But hopefully you can carry a platform that gives you a lot of ammo, or carry a bunch of mags and get really fast at reloading. Like having ammunition. Yeah. The only reason we deal with handgun ammunition is because it's way more convenient to carry a handgun than it is to carry a rifle.
Yeah. So where it's actually, if you needed it, you could get to it. Like if you're in your vehicle and you got a truck or a rifle that's in your truck or a car or whatever you're driving.
Yeah.
It could be in your Prius. If you got a Prius, right on.
Yeah, cool. Good job.
You got a rifle in there, so it makes it all good. Makes it all gravy.
Yeah, if I could GTA 5 style, like, carry a gun,
Yeah.
then, then I would, that I would carry a full-size rifle, but I can't, so I'm going to carry a handgun. So,
Yep.
But, yeah, just, I don't know. It's something, especially here in this area, that comes up a lot. You get people that get so hyper-focused on the ammunition, and it's like, dude.
And I think that almost comes to training. Like, it's like, yeah, I might not be able to hit them, but when I do hit them, I want to be able to make my one shot count. It's like, well, you might want to just go out and train then, because if you're worried about that, then you probably shouldn't be carrying the handgun in the first place if you can't hit the person.
Yep. Which we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, I know. I like to skip ahead.
Yeah. Trust me, we've got a full rant coming on training. Anyways, so another thing with your handgun when you're choosing it is, customize it. Well, I like to say outfit more, because customize is like you can get a little carried away, and I'm guilty of it. I have some guns that I like completely like turned it into some crazy thing, and like colors and Cerakote and slide cuts and like, and you don't really need to do all that.
To do it, why not?
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. But
did you hear that?
I did. I don't know if
right on.
The audience did.
My bad.
So anyways, outfit it with what you need. There's a big rule of thumb I have is, if it can support a light, put a light on it. So, right?
Yeah.
We spend half our lives in the dark. It's really important to consider carrying a light. And I know a lot of people might shrug at that. You don't have to. I'm not saying you need to. But you need to have a light on you in your EDC at a minimum. I really think carrying a flashlight, other than like your cell phone light that gives you like nothing at all, is really important. So put a light on your gun if it can support it. I think that's a really good way to do that. If you have to get into engagement in the dark, it can be a lifesaver. So things like that.
And also can keep you from potentially shooting something you don't want to shoot. Target identification is incredibly important.
You have to know. you
got to know what you're shooting at. So
yep. So anyways, that what about optics? What do you think about optics? You think it's a necessary thing?
I think it definitely, with training, it makes you better. It makes you better. I mean, it's like the argument. I don't know. I think it's becoming more accepted now. There was an argument like, oh, now I'm worried about liability or reliability, and it's like, man, I think now they've been proven enough. They've been around long enough that I don't even think that's really an argument anymore. As long as you're using a good company that's building it, that's making, like, you're buying for it.
We've used them for years now.
Yeah,
that's something that
I think my first handgun that had a red dot on it was I bought it back in 2012. So it was a Leopold Delta Point.
Yep.
And it's whatever. It was a decent dot, but it was, I don't know, I sold it.
Yeah.
Moved on to the Trijicon RMRs pretty much all around on pretty much every one of my guns.
Yep. And, so pick your handgun, but also like consider what you may want to outfit on that gun. So like a light, optic, those are two I would recommend. You don't really need to do much else. Like people do like threaded barrels and triggers and all this stuff. You just don't really need it, in my opinion.
No, you don't.
Stock guns nowadays are just fine out of the box.
You don't need compensators. You don't need anything like that, especially if if you got like some crazy round that you're like worried about, like recoil and stuff on. I don't know. Maybe you can consider it. If you do what I did, where it's just taking up empty space, and it's like, well, it'll make it run just a little flatter. I mean, really, for 9mm, compensators don't do a whole lot, so it's kind of like it's basically the same thing, with or without. Threaded barrels obviously give you a little longer barrel length, so if you're running a Glock 19 and you're like, well, I could get a little extra barrel length by running a threaded barrel, and then it gives me the option to potentially suppress it. Cool. Why not?
Yeah.
But it's not needed.
Yeah. And then ultimately, once you get all this stuff done, you got to test it. You need to know how it works. You know, need to make sure it's going to be reliable. That's like that's the biggest thing. And I think, I hate to say it, but I think there's a lot of people out there that don't shoot enough to know if their gun's reliable or not. You need to
would say
test
that's 100%
it.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, you need to go out. If you add anything to your gun ever, or make a change, immediately go test it. Make sure it works for you. If you're going to change your carry position, go make sure it works for you, or whatever. That gets more into training. But as far as, this is training too, but as far as just the overall function of your gun, like, go out and test it. Make sure that thing functions. It should function flawlessly. It should not be malfunctioning,
Yeah, and also over redundancies on safeties too on a firearm, man. There's so many handguns that have like multiple yeah, I understand you're like trying to make it to like make it safe for the person who doesn't want to go out and train, but that's just gonna, like, I don't know, there's more potential for failure in those setups,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying guns without safeties are the way to go, but I'm saying, like, when you got a trigger safety and you got a back strap you have to press and you have a manual safety that you have to flip off.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, what the heck is going on right now?
Yeah. No, it's ridiculous. And we see it all the time. We'll have people come in and, yeah, can you make a holster for this gun? We're like, yeah, we can. They're like, yeah, well, what is it going to work with all these safeties? And we're like, yeah, we can do it. And they're like, yeah, like, it just happened the other day. Like, yeah, I really wish, now that I've had it for a while and I've been shooting it, I wish I would have got the version that didn't have the lever safety on it or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, because, we're not saying, like Steven said, I'm not trying to send the message of, like, don't get guns with safeties. I think if you've got a good reason for it, then pursue it. But you got to know how to run that stuff, and you got to maintain it, and you need to make sure that it's not a barrier to you being able to, effectively run that gun, and quickly run it.
Yeah, especially if, like, you got a modern grip and it's kind of not really, like, I remember, like, some of the older XDs had issues with that. Like, you would, if you really got high up on the gun, which helps with recoil, you'd have issues with that backstrap safety that it had, where sometimes it wouldn't get fully depressed and your gun just wouldn't fire.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I saw it happen to multiple students, and it's like, man, like, that's a big deal.
That's huge.
Then you're having to adjust your grip just right in order to make it work. And it's like, okay, well, that's one more thing that could potentially fail on you when it's a life or death situation, So,
yeah,
I think that should be considered when you're picking out your firearm.
For sure. Yep. And that all goes back to, like, what is that why, And if ultimately that why is, like, self-defense and defense of my family or friends or loved ones or whatever, then you want to pick something that gives you the most advantage. That's it. Like, the absolute most advantage you can get out of something that's reasonable to carry.
Yeah, and fighting's not fair, so don't think about it in the fact, like, hey, this is a boxing match and I need to go in. And if you are thinking about it as a boxing match, better be Mike Tyson and start biting some ears, because
Well, and on that too, when you said that, it reminded me of this. There's, like, this misconception. Well, I don't even know if it's a misconception, but there's this common statement that's made about customizing or, like, outfitting your gun. Like, well, there's two. There's one that's like, well, if you put, like, custom stuff on your gun, then that can be used against you in court.
Yeah,
that's bogus. That's, if you were in the right, 100%, it was all self-defense. It's going to be irrelevant,
Yeah.
The other thing is, well, I don't want to put all that expensive stuff on my gun because then my gun's going to get brought into evidence and I'm going to lose it. It's like, I've said this before. If you find yourself in that situation, you are not going to think about how much that stuff cost in the midst of it, using it to save your life or your loved one's life.
and then you're eventually going to get it back. It's like,
yeah,
it might take a little while. We know a few guys that have had this happen, so it's like, had to use their firearm for self-defense, and they get their firearm taken from them for a couple months or whatever.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's unfortunate, but I don't think you should make that be the deciding factor whether to try to make your gun the most effective thing that you're carrying. Like,
yeah,
price shouldn't be a fear when it comes to saving your life, because your life's kind of priceless. So
yeah, yep, yeah. And then, on that, and this is kind of the last thing I'll say for the handgun section is, maybe it's important if you're worried about that. Maybe it's important to have redundancies. So both Steven and I have 2 platforms that are very similar to each other.
yeah,
And in the event that unfortunately could happen, I've got basically the same thing. I can jump right into its place.
yep, me too. I'd
So-
probably rip my X300 off my gun. No, I'm just kidding. Just pocket it afterwards.
Yeah, I would. Why not? No, I don't know.
It's
probably not good advice. Do not take any legal advice ever from this podcast.
I was going to say, yeah, we're probably the worst people for that. You somehow end up in jail because you took your X300 off your firearm. You're like, oh yeah, that was tampering with evidence. It's a felony charge.
It might be.
It is. Tampering with evidence is.
No, I know, but I mean, I don't know if that would actually qualify as that, but
If the cop was feeling extra douche, then yes.
yeah, because you're gonna get searched, I guess, so they're gonna find it.
It's like, no, dude, that was in my pocket the whole time. What do you got?
Oh man. But and then, so kind of in that same vein, you see it a lot where guys have like, yeah, I have my carry rotation. It's like like that stuff kills me, man. Like, have consistency. Like, you can have a carry rotation, but it better be 3 of the same guns with the same loadout. I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of, and maybe I'm being too like hoorah or something, but I'm not a fan of like, yeah, I carry my 1911 on Tuesday, and I carry my Smith & Wesson on Wednesday, and then I get my 44 mag out. Like, these aren't watches, bro. Like, I mean, cool, dude. I'm a watch guy. Like, I rock different watches on different days and stuff.
We got some sexy watches on right now.
Dude.
I mean,
from
yours
2
is
different ages.
I would say yours is more sexy. Mine's more like utilitarian, but that's it.
Yeah, yours can do a lot more than mine. Steven's rocking that Sunto, and I've got that old classic, just rocking
The old Sunto Traverse Alpha,
yeah.
to be exact. What do you got on?
This is the Bulova A15. It's a pilot's watch. It's got you can do time elapsed on it.
We're not talking about what we can do, because we could go forever on this one then.
Yeah, but the other
Don't
thing,
hype it up. Just,
What?
It's beautiful. Mine's a little more ugly and
how
chubby.
long does that last on a battery?
Not very long.
How
Not
long?
very long. Not very long.
This one
Depends
doesn't
on-
need a battery. I just have to wear it.
Yeah. This is better for...
But I will say that this is a lot less accurate than that, because I think this thing plus or minus, it's like, I think it's 18 seconds a day or something, which is not great. But it's a cheaper automatic. The Bulova, which, by the way, if you want a classy watch that's not going to kill you, Bulova has some cool offerings. They make some stupid stuff too. So, but yeah, if you're interested, like if you're one of those people, this is super random, but if you're one of those people that's always wanted an Omega Speedmaster, or like the Moonwatch, which is what a lot of people call it, that's sick. It's like a 10 grand watch. So I ain't going to be getting one anytime soon. And if you don't have night vision out there, people, neither are you. but
prioritize night vision over a $10,000 watch.
Yeah.
Long story short.
I mean, if you're balling out of control and you're just beast mode, then dude, I hope I see you, and I hope I'm like, nice speedy, bro. But
come give us some business.
But what you can get is the Bulova Lunar Pilot is the name of it. Look it up. Bulova Lunar Pilot. And it's got actually really cool history. One of the astronauts that went to the moon had a Omega Speedmaster, and the lens popped off of his watch.
Yeah.
And he went to his backup, which was the Bulova which was his Bulova watch, and that watch actually made the landing on the moon. So much less known, but yeah, Bulova also had, that's a big thing. Like Omega's got that heritage of like being the standard issue NASA watch at a certain time. It was, and they're fantastic timepieces.
Man, you just crapped on them.
What?
You just crapped on just the Omega watch. Just
no. You can't crap on Omega. It's like, Rolex has had some weird stuff happen too. Everyone has stuff happen, but just saying, the Bulova Lunar Pilot is one heck of a watch. It's got a really cool history. For me, watches are about what I like to buy watches for is its history. What kind of history does it have? What does it mean? What does it represent? That's why I have this A15, because it's
so your everyday carry watch is the complete opposite of your everyday carry handgun. Is what you're saying.
Well, what do you need a watch to do? It needs to tell the time, ultimately. So, but Steven has a far more superior EDC focused, serving him multiple roles watch than I do. Mine will tell me what time it is and tell me how much time has passed, and that's all it'll do. So,
yeah.
But getting back on task here after my watch rant, we'll have to do I don't know. Well, I don't even know.
Watch podcast?
Yeah, dude. What to look for in a good watch? I don't know.
No. I think people would fall asleep in that thing. You'd have like maybe 2 listeners. No. I could be wrong. I mean, email us if I'm wrong, but if you guys want to listen to us talk about watches,
email us if he's right. Yeah, don't talk about watches. Stick to patrolling. Yeah, dude. Anyways, so it's not a watch. If you're swapping your guns around every day, I mean, dude, if you train equally with them all, I guess sick. But for me, I like to keep things consistent.
Dude, you got some range time if you're able to train with all those.
Yeah.
Like you're Lucas with TRX Arms or something. 'Cause that dude's got some time on the range.
Yeah, he does. That guy, I am envious of his time on the range. With that being said, you got to get out and train.
We got to train, man.
You got to get out and train.
You guys knew it was coming. It was eventually going to show up.
Yep.
We're going to talk about what's not the fun part. Well, actually, it is the fun part. It should be the fun part.
Yeah, this should be fun. I think maybe what's not fun is the level of training you have to do. This is huge. Like, you need to be as good as you can possibly be for the amount of...
It's like, like I see it. Obviously, most of our listeners know I work in a prison week on, week off. So, a prison's union ran. And if you've gone from working in a private sector to going, well, I've gone from, government to private to union ran, and you see the different outputs of work where, your private sector, everyone's trying to be the best they can be at their job because they don't want to lose their job. They're not protected. It's all about how good you are at that skill. Like, where if you work in a union, unfortunately, it's all about seniority and things like that. So it promotes laziness and inefficiencies. Not saying that's all you see in a union. I'm just saying, like, you want to be the best at what you do. So if you're planning on carrying a handgun, this is all going back to, if you're planning on carrying a handgun, why wouldn't you want to be the best at it? I mean, obviously, you may never become the best at it, but be the best you can be.
Yeah. You need to hold yourself to an incredibly high standard, because the training you have is literally going to be the decider between life or death. If you find yourself in a situation where you need to use this handgun you carry, this handgun you've put a lot of thought into, this handgun that you have with you literally every day carry, you carry a handgun every day. If you can't get that thing out and use it to actually save yourself and others, then there is no point to any of this. And your level of training and your level of effectiveness with that gun is going to be decided by how often you train and how serious you take it.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of people, especially people that just have no frame of reference really, or just aren't sure where to start, their very first step is to seek professional instruction. I think that, and some people may disagree because I think you can learn a lot of stuff online, but that's what I'm saying. That's professional instruction to some degree. Finding someone that is more experienced than you. It could be a local instructor that's at your range. It could be like seeking out some company that you heard about. It could be going on YouTube and finding, YouTube videos on like how to shoot a handgun or whatever.
Yeah.
Seeking professional instruction from a good vetted source. Make sure that the source you're learning from has good reviews, and you can, everyone knows how to look up credibility nowadays. Like we should at least.
Yeah.
Be smart. Find out, is this who I want to learn from? Is this someone that is teaching good techniques that are going to make sense? Get professional instruction. Invest. I would recommend taking at least a basic class to get started.
I think also like to be the most effective and most efficient with your time, you're going to want to do that too. Like you see it all the time, like videos, like I every once in a while I'll catch them because they like show up on my stream, but like gym compilations of like people who just don't know what they're doing in the gym,
Yeah.
Just making absolute fools of themselves. And it's comical, but it's like, you actually kind of feel bad for them because it's like, probably no one showed them how to do it. And they also never like tried to watch videos on YouTube and stuff. And,
yeah.
like,
no one's helping them. They're just taking
like, they're
videos
probably going to hurt
of them.
themselves for one. And for two, they're just wasting time there because they're not actually doing what they like. They're not being effective in what they're doing.
Yeah.
Where if you get professionally trained, it's like, okay, now I know how to isolate certain skills. I know how to work on something that I may not be the best at, or I can kind of sharpen up that skill that I'm already pretty good at, and I can keep it. I can get even better, or whatever. And it makes you progress a whole lot faster if you then understand, okay, this is what I need to work on, or this is what I need to continue to practice so I stay efficient in this area.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, I like that you brought that up because I think there's kind of a misconception out there that you go get training and you're going to come out an amazing shooter, and that's just not the case. If you go take a class, it's going to be 1, maybe 2, possibly if it's a
you're going to grow
class, maybe 3 days.
You should grow for sure.
Oh, yeah.
There should be growth.
Yeah.
Within the class. Like you should not only physically but mentally for sure, and I think more mentally than physically sometimes.
Yeah. For sure. Well, you're given the recipe, It's like if someone's like, "Hey, make me a Neapolitan pizza." And you're like, "What?" Like, "Yep, let's go. Authentic Neapolitan pizza." It's like, "I don't know." All right, well, come take this class and then make me one. Well, the person that's taking the class on how to make one is going to, they're not going to make a perfect Neapolitan pizza, but they're going to make a better Neapolitan pizza than the person that didn't take the class.
Yeah.
So, take the class.
You're fast starting yourself in a way. Like, you send someone to a basic, okay, this is how you make a Neapolitan pizza, and then you have the guy who's just trying to figure it out on himself while he's just making pizzas and trying out different recipes and trying to figure out how to do his dough or trying to figure out how to do whatever. The guy who went to the class is going to be at a head start, like he's going to be faster along, like he's going to be fast started because he's already going to have an understanding of the basics, and then he's going to be able to start working on his own like recipes or like different sauce or different dough types, and he's already going to have a better foundation because he took the class.
And he's going to understand mistakes.
And I'm not saying you can't teach yourself. Like if you don't have the funds or whatever to actually like go out and pay for an instructor to teach you, you can find sources like we said on the internet. It's just going to, maybe your growth's going to be a little slower than the guy who went and spent the money on a class. But that's kind of the give and take on financial versus time,
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's like on the same analogy, I'm really into cooking. I do a lot of cooking, and I have fun. It's like kind of it's funny because when I had full-time jobs and I was super busy, gun stuff was my hobby, and then it kind of became like my passion, and now it's what I do.
Yeah.
I still love it. It's still my passion. I care more about it than anything. Like all the stuff we work on here at DDS is, I love doing this, but I didn't have a hobby anymore.
Yeah.
So that transitioned into cooking. Like I enjoy cooking and stuff, but I'm self-taught. I've learned a lot on just YouTube
In research.
And I've
trying
paid for
things.
a few. I've paid for a few courses like master class. You know, they have those master classes.
I did not know that you paid for courses.
Yeah. I've done 2 of them.
Okay.
And they're awesome. But I've never taken a class though. Never taken a culinary class. And my uncle, or our uncle, is a chef. And I went down there and just talking to him for like a couple hours. It's like, holy crap. Like the stuff he just has in his head. I mean, you could consider him a subject matter expert. I mean, he's a chef. He does it professionally.
Yeah.
But he's been to various culinary schools, like, French style cooking schools that are like, crazy intense. And so he's done that, and he's far beyond where I am, by miles.
I mean, he's
and miles.
got years too on you. Obviously.
Experience. Yeah. But there's just little things that, that he was doing that are very, very similar techniques to what I saw, but just being with him in person, it's like, oh, so again, I am proof that like you can teach yourself to how to do this kind of stuff, and you absolutely can. And we're in such a good place with like YouTube and stuff and just sources on the internet. And there's so many good quality people out there offering just free education on this stuff that it's incredible. But I still recommend, if you can, go take a good class. Now, make sure it's vetted. Like, it's important because there's a lot of snake oil out there. But getting hands-on, having someone watch you shoot and say, no, your finger doesn't need to be out in front of the trigger guard, or like, oh, hey, let's fix your grip. Making those little adjustments for your first time really out there intentionally shooting.
Yep.
For a lot of people. I mean, realistically, most people that buy a gun go shoot and they're just like excited to shoot it, and then you start building these bad habits that you don't even know are bad habits. So you get things like that. Like going back to the cooking thing, there was a way I was holding the knife that I'd never even thought about. And he was like, hey, hold the knife like this. This is how this knife's designed to be held. It's like, really? He's like, yep, this is why. You can rock it, and when you chop, you can do this. When you slice, you hold it on, like, and he showed me these little things. I was like, and like it completely changed, like, now
like you probably saw people doing that in other videos, but you never knew why they were doing it and why
I didn't even notice it. I was just like watching what they were cutting, and I didn't look at their hand. Like, what exactly is their hand doing?
Yeah.
Or there was guys that, there's people out there that were doing the same video that weren't holding it like that. So there was like variation. Then I started noticing all of the high-end chefs that were making videos and doing training were all holding it in that same way that
he was talking about.
Uncle Craig told me to hold it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so things like that, that's going to happen. After that,
I heard you can go to culinary school to become a better shooter, so.
Dude. Yeah, if we can write it off as a business expense, I'm all about it.
I'm just saying, shout out to Travis Haley and his new podcast.
Yeah, that's a great podcast, by the way. I still haven't finished the first episode, though, so I don't have a lot to go off of yet. But
hey, you went to culinary school to become a better shooter.
I got to that part.
It made me laugh.
I was like, what?
Man, Jacob would love that.
The ballerina part makes sense, but I don't know how culinary school, but I'm out here for it. I'm all for it. Like, let's figure it out. We'll make it a business expense and send me and Steven to culinary school.
So if you're ever an instructor coming to Alaska, we can cook you some awesome food. So
yeah.
Let's start a GoFundMe. No, I'm just kidding.
No, seriously. Yeah. We'll definitely treat you to some foods. But anyways, after this podcast has been erratic. I love it. After you get professional instruction, especially if it's in-person training, which I think would be the best option if you can do it, do your homework. Now it's time to really take everything you've learned, build off of that foundation Steven was talking about. You mentioned it gives you a good foundation. You know what's not good to do, but more importantly, you know where to go. You have a frame of reference. You're like, okay, I understand now. You can use drills you learned in the course. Like, I think that's the best way to look at taking a course. It's like getting a new perspective on how to train. It's like, okay, well, they did these things, and I noticed that my draw stroke got faster while we were doing it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to continue to do that. In 1 or 2 days, you're just not going to become an amazing shooter. You're going to become much better than you were, but treat it like a homework assignment. You went, you did it, you learned the material. Now you need to do your homework, and then you need to start to test yourself. You need to get into, I think investing in a shot timer is very important. Something you can have actual data that you're tracking.
Yeah.
And have like tangible information in front of you that's like, okay, no, I'm actually getting slower or whatever.
Yeah, holding yourself accountable is so important to actually have progression in this. Keeping track of, previous range sessions or best times or whatever, and also like recording yourself is another thing that is fantastic because you can see, okay, why have I progressed or why haven't I progressed in this area? You can start seeing, okay, there's some, inconsistencies or something you're doing that's not efficient,
Yeah.
In the draw stroke itself or whatever you're working on,
Yeah.
clearing malfunctions, reloads, things like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think going out to the range or going to train, doing whatever, should always be done with that focus of like, what is my next focus to improve on? What do I need to improve on next? I've been guilty of this, sticking into like things that I'm really good at. Like I want to do this because it's like satisfying.
It's fun.
I'm the fastest at this or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like,
it's fun to do if you're good at it.
Yeah. It's like, okay, cool. One, you can always get better. So if you're in that comfort zone of like, oh yeah, dude, I'm crushing this, increase the difficulty, increase the range, increase the time standard, do a combination of the two. You can always get better, or start focusing on other things you're lacking in, like for a long time, especially back when I was doing like competition shooting stuff, my reloads were blazing fast. Actually, my reloads are a lot slower than they used to be. I need to work on them again.
Yeah.
My reloads were ridiculously quick, and I like loved doing reloads, and like my follow-up shots were freaking quick. But my one-handed shooting, because there was like some stages and stuff that had one-handed shooting.
Yeah, I suck at
my one-handed shooting was trash, and I hated. It's dumb because like you shouldn't ever really shoot one-handed, but there's practical reasons why you might have to. Like if I get shot in the shoulder and my arm's down, I got to shoot one-handed probably, depending on how much damage it did. But
if it didn't even damage the muscle and nerves, it's
over.
Basically locks that arm up.
Yeah. So it's important to know. And for the longest time, I avoided it like the plague. And still to this day, it's one of my weakest points is shooting one-handed. And it's not even, for a while, it was so weak that it wasn't even like, it's not like, oh, well, I'm okay. No, it was like bad. Like, I'd be shooting at two hands, I'd get like tight, 1 to 2 inch groups, A-zone hits all day at a pretty far range. And then, like 10, 15 yards or whatever. And then switch to one hand. And it's like, I'm barely in the C zone, probably all in the D zone, So like, that's pretty bad. So that's something I had to start focusing on. So always have a priority when you go and train. Have things, I if you can, and I used to be good about this, and I've gotten bad about it just because I'm bogged down with a lot recently. It's just a busy life. But if you can, sometime prior to going, write down like what you want. I think it's important to write stuff down. So write down what you want to work on.
Yeah, have a training plan.
Yeah.
Like going back to a gym analogy. I mean, obviously, like most guys that work out in the gym and they do it actually, they stay up with it. They do it daily or whatever. They have a plan. Like they go in like, hey, I'm going to work on this muscle group or whatever, or these muscle groups. It's the same thing for training with a handgun, or training with anything in this industry. Go in with a plan, work on certain areas. If things come up while you're working on that stuff, obviously, that you want to start working on. I mean, you can do. It's not like, oh no, I have to stay to the game plan. But I feel like having a plan going into it keeps you kind of focused in the area that you need to focus on.
Yeah. And it's if you value your time, it's important to do that because you don't want to waste a bunch of time. Again, you were talking about people going to the gym and just doing random stuff and all they're doing is wasting time and money, because they're paying for that membership. They're there using up time and, not really getting any results. Well, same thing. You've bought a bunch of ammo, you're shooting ammo and you're there wasting time, not getting any results. You don't want to do that. You want to get the most bang for your buck, no pun intended. So be intentional about it and make it habitual. This should be something that is regular. It should be often. Our minimum for the longest time, kind of until the ammo shortage situation, was once a week was our minimum. We went once a week.
Yeah.
Then it kind of became once a month. But when that happened, for me at least, and I know for you too, we focused way more on dry fire training. You can get a lot out of not even shooting. And having a daily routine for dry fire, I think, is really important. I spend about 5 minutes a day. There's some days I don't, if other things come up. Unfortunately, that's one of the things I drop first. Out of like a lot of the things I do in my daily routine, that's the one that will get swept away pretty often. And if things are really busy and crazy and there's a lot going on, we've had a lot of like sickness and stuff in the household. I was sick, so I wasn't doing,
much of anything.
I had hand boils all over my hands, so I was not doing dry fire training at all. Also, I didn't want to pass that on to my gun. No, I'm just kidding. Dumb.
Be a good stippling design. What are you talking about?
Oh man, no, the stippling would just, it would just tear up those up, man. I don't even want to think about it. But yeah, so dry fire is really important. Just spending a few minutes, 5 to 10 minutes on it a day can make a world of difference. You can see a lot of things. Just make sure you're doing it correctly. You should be make sure those movements are crisp and exactly what they should be. Don't again, be intentional about it. And then have a live fire routine as well. So if it's if you can't afford to go once a week to the range, then dry fire every day. Maybe once a week do like an extended dry fire routine where you work on a lot of different things. And then once a month or once every 2 weeks or something, try to go to the range, try to get some, save up and budget in an ammo allowance for you to be able to shoot ammo. I know it's harder now because, ammo can be hard to find and it's pretty expensive and things like that, but you got to try to do it. So yeah, and then
also on that too, like, I mean, we say it in almost every podcast, like when we talk about training, but have a group of guys. That's so important on, that helps you grow. That helps you progress as well, because then you can start, iron sharpens iron. So, having a group of guys that's holding you accountable and, you guys can, help each other be more efficient, be able to watch each other shoot, make tweaks with each other, So, and then also it kind of makes it so, hey, we're going shooting this Saturday or whatever. Well, I wake up and I've been working all week and I'm tired and I'm like, I don't want to go. And then everyone's hounding me like, no, you're coming.
Yeah.
Get your lazy butt out of bed.
And that literally happens. Like we've done that to people,
Not usually to me, but.
No, it's like almost never to you, but, no, but like there's been guys that are like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. And we're like, nope, you're coming. Like, that's dumb. Like, why are you not making it? Well, I got stuff going on. What do you got going on? You're coming. You're coming to the range.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah.
Get your butt out of bed and let's get to work.
Open those eyes. Good morning. That's the thing though, is like, I feel bad for our group, because for us, it's always like we're meeting at super early because we have to front load stuff super, super early all the time.
These guys. But you know what?
It's a good way to start the day, though.
It's a good way to start the day, and really, we're not taking away from your family time either. Like if you got wives, like a wife and kid. I about said wives.
Oh,
if you're a Mormon, you have multiple wives. No.
Good for you. No. Dude, I don't know how people do that.
I was about to say that sounds terrible.
Yeah. Oh man.
I'm just being truthful, but anyways, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even remember where I was at. I just got so
Your family.
Yeah.
If it's early.
If you get up early and get
They're not
the
even
day
out of bed
going,
yet.
you get back home before they're just getting up. It's like, sweet, I'm here for breakfast. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Start cooking pancakes.
Yep. Yeah, and I think keeping that student mentality too is really important. Like, don't become Mr. like, well, I've got this stuff all figured out. Kids, you don't. You don't have it figured out. Even, guys, some of the guys out there that are considered the best, it's because they continually learn and they continually progress, and they're constantly searching for like the new way to do things, or or not necessarily the new way to do things, but how to increase their, time standards or proficiency in certain areas.
Yep.
So constantly try to improve, and then push yourself, and then within that group, hold others to a high standard as well and push them. And you develop this like really cool relationship doing that. And it's been a really long time since we've actually been able to go out and do strictly that.
Yeah, we did. I mean, we're trying to increase our training cycle more as of recently. It helps with summertime. Wintertime's kind of rough up here. Like, it's hard to stay motivated. I'm not saying that that's a good excuse. It's actually a terrible excuse. And get out there and deal with it.
Yeah.
Because that's where you live. But what I'm saying is, we just got past the holidays and all that stuff. Well, we didn't just get past it because it's now May. But I'm just saying, like, for me, I feel like we just got past it. Like, that time flew by. But yeah, I mean, we've been working on so many different things with our guys, which is fantastic. I'm not saying don't do that, but I'm saying make sure to make time for the range and make sure to make time for
You and I get to get out pretty often.
Yeah.
But as far as our like group, like our whole group, I miss those days of, I feel like those died off with the COVID ammo shortages and all that.
Yeah, that's basically when it tapered off. We were still doing it into it for a little bit, and I remember everyone telling us, "Oh man, you guys are crazy! Like, I can't believe you guys are burning through ammo right now and going out and shooting like with the cost of ammo." But then I think we were hoping that it wouldn't last as long as it did, and then it kept going, and it's like, oh, ammo is actually really hard to get.
Yeah, we kind of all burnt through like our training ammo, and then I even burnt into my like reserve ammo a little bit, and then I was like, I gotta stop going into the dry fire. But yeah, it's getting easier to find. It's still pretty expensive and stuff, but it's getting a lot better. And I think the other important thing I really want to touch on for training is if you carry every day, then that should be your training priority. Because that's how ratios work. That's how percentages, that's how data, statistics all work. It's like what you do the most, the odds are that's what, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, if you carry a gun every day, if something bad's going to happen to you, odds are it's going to happen to you while you're carrying a gun.
Yeah.
Not while
you're carrying an AR. Randomly.
Yeah. So we talk a lot about like patrolling and, tactics and and we're going to get into all that stuff because the main reason we're focusing on a lot of that stuff on the podcast is because that information's not as readily available and it's not as talked about and it's not as obvious. I think at this point, especially in the way that like kind of the gun culture is, it's obvious that you should be training with your daily carry gun.
Yeah.
But I still want to say that should be your priority. Like when I do my dry fire stuff, it's always out. It's inside the waistband. It's almost exclusively inside the waistband. Sometimes I get my battle belt out and work off of it, but rarely. It's my EDC stuff. Like all of my dry fire is pretty much EDC. And when I go shoot handgun at the range, it's almost always EDC. So that also translates into your belt setup pretty well. I mean, it's the same principles. Mm-hmm. Mechanics are very similar. Your draw position's different, but not really that much. Your body mechanics don't really change very much. I mean, a little bit, but so yeah, I think it's, it's obviously important to work on both, but I'm not wearing my tool belt every day. I'm not wearing my battle belt every single day.
Yeah.
I'm wearing my appendix carry rig. I wear it every day. That's what I have on me. So that's where my training priority is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people, not get bogged down, but it's more fun. I'll admit, I have more fun doing the other stuff. And I think it's more fun to like get geared up and run, especially like flat range. I would rather run my AR than my handgun. I have more fun shooting my AR because
you're better with
I'm
it.
better with it. They're fun. They're fun guns to shoot.
We just talked about this.
Yeah, but I shoot my handgun more. So
yeah,
they're harder to shoot.
Handguns are way harder to shoot than rifles.
And you're more than likely.
But we're not saying not to train with your rifles. Well, obviously.
Definitely not. You got to train with them. And going back to like our schedule. So our old schedule was what did we do? Did we do 3 weeks pistol related and then 1 week carbine?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So it was like every week in the month it was 2 weeks EDC. Then the third week was battle belt stuff. And then the fourth week was obviously you still have your battle belt on, but then it was implementing the carbine stuff.
Yeah.
That was like our flat range schedule. It's changed a little bit now because we focus on a lot of other stuff over the last, I shouldn't say now because it's been
years,
a long time now, but I guess since then, since we used to train in that way, we focus on other things now. So, also our schedules have changed a lot, so it enables us to have different days throughout the same week to do things. So, yeah, it's just really important. The training is like, I don't know. I find it funny. Well, honestly, I don't find it funny. It's something that happens too much, and it's a bummer. But I hear it time and time again, and people will say, "Yeah, I've been, I carry this is the gun I carry, blah blah blah." It's like, yeah, honestly, I'm like, oh, how's that thing shoot? I'm like, oh, I actually haven't even shot it yet. And I'm like, what? Like in the back of my head, I'm sitting while they just continue on about all the weird reasons why they haven't shot it. I'm like, wait, so you carry this gun, but you've never shot it. It's never been shot.
Yeah.
Does it even work? You don't know. It should, but you don't know.
That's crazy.
It's insane. Or like, yeah, I carried this gun for, like, we had a guy come in and try to do a consignment. Yeah, I carried this gun for years, but it's not really been used. I was just carrying it. And I was like in my head, I was like, what does that mean? I was like, oh. But you carried it every day? Yeah, but I've probably only got 2 boxes of ammunition through it. And I was like, been carrying it for years. Got 2 boxes of ammunition through it. So 100 rounds.
Yeah.
Dude. Like, and that's common. And if you fall somewhere in that, those are extreme examples, but if you fall somewhere near that or kind of in that category, you got to make a change. I mean, this is not something that I promise you, if you find yourself in a life-threatening situation where gunfire is being exchanged, you will want all of the training you can possibly have in that situation. You want it. You want as much advantage as you can have. And that's on you. So go out and train yourself and work on it and progress. Revisit instruction. If you've gone and taken a course and years go by and you've gotten really good, find another course. Or if that person offers a more advanced course, go take it. If you have it within your means,
do it.
Do as much as you can.
Yeah, why not? It's fun too, man. Like, that's another thing. Like,
yeah.
It's not like some huge burden, to go out and do this. It's not. It's incredibly enjoyable. Like, if you're listening to this podcast, more than likely you enjoy this stuff. So it's not like it's some really painful thing to go out and do. It's lots of fun. It's a good experience. Get out there, especially with a group of friends. Like, go have fun with it. But
yeah. So, kind of getting out of that and getting back into carrying. got to have a good holster and a good belt to hold that holster.
Yeah, definitely.
I think those go hand in hand.
You're talking about positioning before, and that's like, consistency is so important when it comes to having an efficient draw stroke and getting to that firearm, getting it up, and because before you can start shooting and defending yourself, you got to get the gun out. So obviously, the faster you can get that done, the faster you can neutralize the threat, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. I think there's always a lot of question on like concealed carry versus open carry, and I'm a very big proponent of concealed carry. I think it's superior to open carry. In some places you don't even have the option. In Alaska, we can do either or. This is a constitutional carry state, so you can open or conceal carry with no license. You just have to be over the age of 21 and be legally allowed to own a firearm. So pretty cool that we have that here, but I'm not a fan at all of. Whoa! I'm not a fan of all of.
Don't do it again. But
just had a boxing match with my microphone over here.
And then he just went right back into trying to do it again somehow.
It's because I wanted to be in this position.
I think you can open carry here at younger than that, though.
Oh,
right.
Well, kinda. Yeah, it's like you technically have to be like
out in the woods.
Yeah, it's for bear defense. I think you can at 16, but you have to be actively in the woods or something weird. I don't remember how it's written, but anyways, concealed carry I think is best. You don't give yourself away. You have a lot more advantage. You don't paint a target on your back. So
yeah, because I mean, if I'm looking to go in and do harm to someone for whatever reason, I'm a crazy person, and I'm just like want to go do harm. I'm just turning into the Joker. If I see someone with a gun, that's the first person I'm probably like, yeah, I need to make sure this guy isn't effective with this, so I'm gonna probably take that person out first. But
yeah,
that's me being smart, I guess. But I'm just saying, like, don't assume every person's just like some cracked out like person strung out on drugs and they can't think properly, because sometimes it's a well thought out thing,
Yeah. And, you see the argument a lot of like, well, it's a deterrent. Maybe, but probably not.
Doubtful.
Yeah. The type of person that is willing to do that kind of harm to someone is not the kind of person that's just so easily deterred,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think more often than not, you're actually a target. They're gonna look around and be like, that guy's got a gun. He's my first guy. I'm killing him first because I don't have to worry about him. I can just do what I need to do after that. But if you don't have any obvious, presentation of the fact that you have a gun on you, then, it's a huge advantage.
Yeah.
You're just one of many people at that point.
Yep.
So, and a lot of people get concerned about like, well, it's not as fast and, it's uncomfortable and like all these things. It's like, again, training. And what's your why? Why do you carry a gun? Is it to be comfortable all day and convenient? No, it's not comfortable or convenient. There's holsters and stuff that can make it more comfortable, but that's like one of the number one questions we get when people come in and start asking about holsters. Like, is it comfortable? And I'm always like, I mean, it's not uncomfortable, but you have to get used to it.
Yeah, I mean, look at like our boys. We both got boys that are 3 years old right now.
Mm-hmm.
Your youngest and my oldest are both 3. And you send them outside, and how quick is it that they ditch their shoes? Like when they go outside, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which, for us, we don't go anywhere with our shoes. Like,
yeah.
But little kids, they'll ditch their shoes super fast. They're just like, yeah, screw these things. I don't want these things on my feet. They're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I can move around so much better with my feet, because this is how God made me, and I've been doing this since I was since I started walking,
Yeah.
at 1 or whatever. Or,
Yeah, and these shoes make me trip and stumble
I'm
around.
just tripping and stumbling all around, and they just feel stupid on my feet. And sometimes I have the left one on my right foot and the right one on my left foot for no reason, because that's just how they put them on. I don't understand that, but they ditch those shoes so fast, and then they're just like, oh, now I can just run so much faster out here in them. But it's because they haven't gotten used to them.
Yeah.
Once you get used to them, it's like, okay, this actually is more effective, because you put that same kid out on the gravel, like my gravel driveway,
Mm-hmm.
and it obviously still hurts his feet. Like, he's going to just power through because they're little and they're dumb. And well, I'm just saying they are kind of, and they just power through. And then, obviously if you throw shoes on him, he's going to be able to run around a whole lot better. Dude, you are right.
Yeah, it was just hilarious. They're little and they're dumb. And, it's true though.
But
yeah,
I'm just
that's
saying,
a great analogy. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I mean, that's basically the exact same thing. Like, until you start wearing it and realizing how much more effective it makes you, it's not gonna be the same as shoes, because shoes are like, they're obviously protecting your feet, keeping your feet comfortable throughout your day.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about like hot asphalt. If you're like in the down south, you don't have to worry about it burning your feet. But at the same time,
I love the analogy though, because why do you wear them? Well, to protect your feet. It's protection.
Yeah.
But when you're sitting on your couch at home chilling, do you want your boots on still?
No.
You want to get those things off and let those feet be free.
Yeah, those dogs are howling.
So yeah,
usually.
it's worn out of the protection of your feet. You're more capable in a way with them on when you're out in the environment, because your feet are protected from the environment. Very similar, carrying a gun. Yeah, are you more capable at defending yourself and protecting your well-being and protecting others? Absolutely, but
until you do it a bunch, it's never going to be comfortable. You're going to want to take it off.
Yeah. Going back to watches, and that's actually, I use it a lot for customers.
I like the shoe analogy better than
I
watches.
do too. I might start using it. I actually really like it. I've never thought of it. But, if you've never worn a watch on your wrist, and a lot of people don't anymore, and then you put a watch on for the first time, it bugs you. You're like, ugh.
Pulls your hair.
Yeah.
You
And it's
hairy
like,
arms.
the tension of it being on your wrist, and it's like moving around a little bit, and you're like, oh my goodness. But once you get used to it, like when I don't have a watch on, it drives me nuts. I'm like,
and then you find yourself like looking at your wrist while
like an idiot
without a
You're
watch
like,
on.
Oh, there's my hairy arm. Yeah, it's dumb. There's my tan line. I always have like a watch tan line.
Yeah, I do too.
But yeah, dude, it's dumb. So, just accept it. Get in the habit. Start wearing it. Having a good holster and a good belt is going to make it a lot easier. Having a purpose-built belt. Nowadays, we're in a great world where, we're in a good time where there's companies that are actually making like belts that are designed to help you carry a gun. Like, that's kind of new to within the last like decade or so,
Yeah.
Gun belts, maybe farther than that.
I was about to say leather. I mean, like good leather belts, I think have been around for a while.
Well, there's been good belts for a long time, but I mean, like now there's belts that are specifically like this belt. We designed this belt to help you carry inside the waistband,
Yeah.
So, like we're big fans of the Core Essentials belts. We actually sell them in the store.
And on our website.
Yep. They're Oh, man, I love these belts.
How long have we been rocking these bad boys now?
Well, we got them to test them. Yeah, 2 years.
So the ones that we got to test
They're
we're
the
still
ones we're
wearing
wearing right now. Yeah.
We're both wearing them. We don't even have to look
belts.
at what we're wearing to know that we're both wearing them.
Yep.
Like, I know Jacob's wearing his, and he knows I'm wearing mine, because once you rock one of these belts,
I can prove it.
I don't know if they heard that, but either way. No, dude. This is when I wish we had yeah, there you go. This is when I wish we had YouTube, because people would be like, what the heck's he doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jacob just ran his mic down to his nether region so he had to freaking do the ratcheting sound with his belt. Anyways, he did not take that belt off in order to do that. Let's just say that.
Yeah. It's around my gun too.
Dude, I'm just I was going somewhere until you did that.
Oh man.
Oh, that's what I was saying. I'm not trying to just like say you have to get these belts, but like once you've ran these belts, it's like you can't have another belt other than these belts.
Because the little adjustments you can make throughout the day.
Yeah, it's a game changer.
It's nice.
They got good firmness. Like they break down over time. Like at first, I was like, when I first got it, I was like, man, I don't know if I like this belt, like because it was stiff. It's a stiff belt right out the gate, and which is good. It's got a little bit of a break-in period where it like becomes like really, really nice. And at first I was like, man, it's just a little too much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was keeping my gun from printing for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But
and moving around a bunch.
Yeah, it was not moving. It was locked in. But it did eventually kind of have a break-in period, and now it works fantastic. So, all that to be said, if you're looking for a good solid belt, Core Essentials, they make great belts. They make good battle belts too, actually, and they're an awesome company. They've been delightful to work with, honestly, because
dude, delightful, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, they've been delightful to work for, man.
No, dude, just Theo Vaughn's on the mic.
Just reminded me of Theo Vaughn somehow.
No.
Anyways, yeah, dude, they have been delightful to work with. No, but there's a ton of belts out there that are good. That's the thing. It's like there's a bunch of companies that are making good belts, and it's nice. So pair that with a holster that's purpose built. You want something that is built for your gun, your platform. What?
Oh, nothing. I'm just listening to you.
Oh, he made a face like, what are you talking about?
No.
Okay. There's a lot of universal holsters still out there running these streets. I think they're becoming fewer and farther between, but avoid those. They're just get something built for your gun.
Yeah.
Get something made for. This is made for a Smith & Wesson 9mm with a X300 Ultra or whatever it is, They're out there. There's companies that do it. We make them. If you're, looking for a holster.
We make a ton of options for holsters.
We have probably more options than most people do, I would say. That's kind of our...
Which lead to long lead times, but...
Yeah, it does, but that's the way it goes. That's kind of that's our niche. Like, we offer the same quality as a lot of these other big manufacturers do, with the same modularity, same performance, but for guns that are a little more obscure,
And we do the guns that are not as well, obviously.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, we carry Glock 19s and stuff, so obviously. But, so if you're interested in holsters, check ours out. We'd love to help you out, and also we'd appreciate the business. But but there's tons of companies. There's tons of great companies out there. So just get a purpose-built, rigid construction holster. I think it's, times have changed, and I think it's pretty widely accepted now that leather's awesome. Leather's beautiful. Like I love a good leather holster, but the technology has improved so much now with like thermoplastic stuff.
Do we have a discount code for our listeners?
We do, and I've just been like completely forgetting about it. So it's Minutemen.
Oh, it is? Okay. Yep. It's already up on the website, though?
Yep. 15% off. So thank you for, I should be saying that at the beginning. Well, now I will. So now that's going to be a...
I don't know if it's necessarily a beginning thing.
Oh, you don't think? Just sneak it in here and there?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. Well, maybe not.
I mean, it could be a beginning thing. I just feel like the beginning, I don't like it to take so much time, but...
Yeah.
Anyways.
So if you use Minutemen on our website, not Minutemen, plural, then you'll get 15% off of just any of the stuff we manufacture.
Yeah, on the podcast name, Minutemen.
Yep. So 15% off any of the stuff we manufacture. So slings, holster accessories, holsters, any of that kind of stuff. So
now I'm worried it's not actually how it is on our podcast.
So anyways, after that, what do you mean?
Oh, I was just saying.
No, it's good.
Anyways, yeah, I just got derailed just now.
Yeah, it's good.
I was going on a tangent.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up though, because I've been forgetting to mention that. So yeah, that's kind of a way to say thank you to our audience is to little discount code. So definitely take advantage. But you don't have to buy from us either. We're not doing this to try to the whole point of this podcast is just to help. We're passionate about education. We're passionate about getting good information out there. That's why we do this podcast. So, don't feel obligated, but we'd love to
build you
your business. So yeah,
build you a good holster.
So coming off of that, dress to the gun. I think that's a phrase you hear a lot, and people are maybe not really sure what it means, but going back a little bit to talking about how carrying a gun every single day isn't necessarily convenient. It's not necessarily like perfectly comfortable. What's the most comfortable? Well, it's wearing like, sweatpants and a t-shirt, or being naked. Like that's the most comfortable you can be. Obviously we can't go throughout life like that. We have to be presentable. We have to, and these things get added on. And if you carry carry a gun daily, then that gets added on. So you need to adjust your wardrobe to work around your gun. I think too many people try to buy a gun that fits into their wardrobe somehow, and they don't actually want to change how they dress. Unfortunately, you see this most of the time with women. We have a lot of women come into the shop and ask questions, and like, I just can't find a holster I can carry. It's like, well, it's going to be hard to carry a holster with yoga pants on.
Yep.
Like it's just,
just tight-fitted clothing in general.
Yeah. It's going to be harder. And, and that leads to a lot of like these really, people start taking some really big, or making really big compromises in how they carry their gun or what kind of gun they choose to carry because they're unwilling to make a few adjustments in their wardrobe.
Yeah.
So, and there are ways around it. We have solutions for people that like, all I'm going to wear are yoga pants. Well, okay, here's what we have, but it's not going to work as good as if you have a belt. Like it just won't.
No.
There's going to be compromises. You can't, you can't have your cake and eat it too, or whatever that saying is. But is that what it is?
I don't know.
I think so. Anyways, there's a give and take.
Yeah.
But you can generally adjust your wardrobe to be most effective for whatever or to however you're going to carry. So there's changes you can make, and it's a lot cheaper to make wardrobe changes than it is to make like platform changes in most cases.
Yeah.
And if you're wearing like Armani every day, then maybe not, but you're also probably rocking a Speedy at that point, the old Omega Speedmaster, if you're rocking like Armani clothes.
Yeah.
But and then hopefully you've got that figured out.
You got like a staccato for your handgun.
Yeah.
Just high class.
Just John Wick. You're just John Wick basically at that point.
Yeah.
So,
which that being said, I kind of want one.
What, the STI?
Staccato. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I do too. They're sweet. But do you need one? No.
Do you need one? No. Maybe. I don't know.
Night vision.
Yeah, I know.
Thermals. So, dude, where are we right now?
We're talking about clothing.
Okay.
Dude, the flannel, man. That's like my go-to, man.
Old flannel.
Because it's got printing too. Like that. Not only is it not only
pattern.
Yeah, pattern breaks up printing. So I said printing. The pattern breaks up printing.
Yeah.
It hides it a whole lot better.
Keeps your
it's
gun
like the
from
same
printing.
thing. Like when we do product pictures, it's hysterical. So like if you do a flat color or like a just a matte color holster picture,
yeah,
it's gonna show all the curvature of the holster and it makes it look the definition looks really good. Where if you were to take that same picture, the same exact holster, press the exact same way, literally identical holster, that's multicam.
Just looks like a sock.
Yeah, it's weird. It just does not pick up the definition nearly as much,
Yep.
which is the same thing with clothing. So
Yeah,
I'm not saying to run around in multicam all the time, but I'm just saying you can if you want.
that's pretty overt, but yeah.
Yeah. if you just want to look like you just got out of the military yesterday, then yeah, rock it. Where was I going? Oh yeah, flannels. Yeah, flannels were great. Like
Yeah.
men, women, you can rock flannels. Just look like a lumberjack out there. And
Yeah. I think that's a lot more accepted here. Flannels are a very Alaska thing, I think. Like everyone wears flannel stuff here. It's like, yeah, I got my flannel on. But I think in most other places, it's just not a very normal attire. But I don't know. I don't know anything about fashion.
Well, like hoodies and things like that.
Yeah, yep. But yeah, anything with patterns is gonna be.
It's easier in the wintertime too to carry. Like to conceal carry.
It's like a cheat code.
It isn't. It isn't. It's more layers to clear, depending on how you set it up, and then, yeah,
it's kind of a random little niche tangent, but your layers, if you're in cold weather, your gun should only ever be under one layer if you can help it. So, like if you've got layers on, try to tuck them behind the gun, and
just be smart with it. Like,
yeah,
don't do it just like very like Neanderthal like and just shove it in. Like actually like tuck in your clothing.
Yeah.
Like don't just tuck it in like behind the gun because it's probably just gonna get in the way. Like it's gonna come untucked and then it's just gonna be in the way.
Yeah. I mean, do what works and go out and test it. You know, you need to go out and test it and train, try your wardrobe out. That goes back to like test everything. You know, anytime you kind of start changing the way you dress, or if you want to dress a certain way while you're carrying, you need to go out the way you normally dress to the range. That's how you train. Is train how you fight. You know, like no, train how you live. You know, like what are you doing? Like how do you carry your gun? That's how you go to the range. Because I see that a lot too. People are like, oh, I'm going to go to the range. And they put on their like super cool guy range gear. Like I got out my combat shirt. And they're like, why? You know, just
or
show
like
up.
The one piece of clothing that's like really easy to clear for.
Yeah.
For while you're concealed carrying. It's like, yeah, but you never wear that when you're concealed carrying. It's the same thing. Like, yeah, I don't know. Just wear what you normally wear. Like wear what you wear in your wardrobe on the daily if you're going to go work on EDC stuff.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, okay, I'm actually clearing something that I normally wear.
Yep. So yeah, if you dress to the gun better, it's going to be a lot easier to not telegraph the fact that you're carrying a gun. You won't, it's not going to be printing. Printing's a term for like if the clothing is literally like pressed up against the gun and you can see the outline of the gun, that's what printing is referring to.
Yeah.
You want to avoid that. You also want to avoid like super like loose flowy clothing to the point to where like if you like move just right, it's gonna or even like if it's too tight, you don't want your gun to just be inadvertently exposed.
Yeah.
Avoid like clothing that's gonna like just flash your gun to the public on accident.
Yeah.
And that's also, again, that's another reason why appendix carry is nice. It's very rare that it happens in that position. I used to carry like 430 closer to small of back, and it would happen back there. It's like you'd be just cruising, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh crap, my flannel like got kicked up over the butt of my gun, and my gun's just been out, like getting seen for a while.
Just so FUD like.
Just trash can soup.
I see that sometimes, like just in random places, like you're in Walmart and you just see this, just usually older gentlemen, and it's like, nice.
Oh man, yeah, dude.
Like man,
be mindful of it. The other big thing is like don't make adjustments in public. I think it's like the opposite end of the spectrum. You need to pay attention to your clothing and what it's doing. Then you got people that are constantly like readjusting their clothing, like, or like moving their belt around, or like kind of grab, like I see this a lot. People actually grab the grip of their gun and shift their holster around. I'm like, whoa! Like in some states, that could be brandishing. So, dude, you know what I mean? Have you seen that? It's crazy, dude. Yeah. It's like, what is this guy trying to do? It's like, you don't need to itch your butt cheek with your gun, like grabbing the butt of the gun and like, yeah, dude.
It's been sitting there too long, man. It's got that hot spot.
Yeah. Don't be adjusting. And then on that though, like, I think people do that because they feel like everybody somehow just magically knows that they're carrying. Like, most people have no freaking clue. Like, even if you do make some pretty overt adjustments, most people are clueless. They don't know. They're focusing on their kids running around in Walmart.
Yeah, someone like me and you might notice.
Yeah, there are people that will notice, so you need to be careful. But I think people overthinking the fact that people, like, they're worried about people seeing if they're carrying a gun and they're trying to hide it super hard are the ones that end up over adjusting and telegraphing that they're carrying a gun. So just be mindful of, like, how you're dressed. If your wardrobe's set up right, then you're not going to have you shouldn't have any issues. It'll take minimal maintenance to keep your gun hidden if you have a good, if you're dressed
why are
the
you
gun
so
properly.
afraid of? Like, why are people so paranoid?
I don't know. I mean, you don't want it to be seen.
I know you don't want it to be seen, but I mean,
some
by
states
doing that, you're making it more seen.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I don't know. It's like, I think people, there's almost like a negative connotation around it where it's like, I don't know. It's kind of like driving without a seatbelt on. It's like you feel like you drive by a cop and they just know. They're like, oh, he's going to pull me over. I forgot to put my seatbelt on. And you're like, no, he didn't even see you, dude. Like, there's no way he saw it. I don't know. That's kind of a weird analogy, but it's like, I think people, you're like, oh, like, I have this gun on me. Like, I don't want anybody to know. And so it, like, kind of builds this weird, it's like all in your head, you know. It's because I guarantee you 99% of the people have no clue and they don't give a crap. They don't even see you there. They're just like smashing through the aisle with their cart.
yeah,
you know, like it's not as much. People don't notice as much as you think.
No, I'd agree. Yeah, for sure.
And then the last thing I want to really touch on dressing to the gun. This is kind of like kind of a weirdly specific thing, but I just truly believe in it. Carry medical gear if you can.
Yeah.
Because if you carry a gun and you want to have the ability to, you know, the whole thing everyone always says is if you have the ability to make holes, you better be able to fill them, you know.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the little catchphrase people use. But seriously though, if you're carrying a gun because you think there's a chance you could get into some kind of altercation or a gunfight, well, then you better carry medical gear on you.
Yeah,
at least
because
minimal stuff.
That's assuming you're going to get in a gunfight.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so that means someone's probably shooting at you.
Yeah.
You better be able to save your own life if you get shot, because that happens all the time. Just because you killed the guy doesn't mean you didn't get shot.
Yep.
But
and you've got limited time, you know. If you start bleeding out, dude, you got limited time. Seconds matter.
Because then there's just you dead and that other person dead, and no one came out on top. Like, everyone lost that.
Yeah. For sure. Got to do it. Make it a habit. A tourniquet at a minimum, I'd say. I'm really starting to mess around with ankle rigs again, because I used to wear one a lot, and then I got just, I don't know.
What you need is like a like an ankle brace that's also an ankle rig.
Oh, dude. On my bad ankle, you're saying?
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea.
It's a 2-part.
I wonder if I could make one. That's a good idea. Just for me, not for anyone else. But
no, yeah.
Yeah. We sell this ankle brace EDC kit thing.
Dude, that's like the most fun thing that has ever existed, dude. Like, I mean, that is like as yellow tinted glasses as it can get, as Caden would say.
Yeah, you know what I did? I actually took my ankle brace. I got to wear an ankle brace every day, and I just strapped a tourniquet to it. Wow, sick, dude. Yeah.
Sounds like something we'd hear in here.
Yeah, it is. Oh, we probably have. We probably just forgotten about it. Or we haven't. We subconsciously remembered. That's why you brought it up. Dude, we hear some weird stuff being in the store, man. It's a good time.
There's some good stuff, too, that we hear, though.
Oh, for sure. Most of it's good, but some of it is weird. Oh man. Like somebody will give us some, oh dude, my favorite thing is when you have someone that's like, and it's not their fault. Usually they're just a little bit ignorant to some things. Like they just don't know, but they think they know though,
Yeah.
and you get some guy, not all the time, but generally they're of the older generation, and they start telling you about this thing that in their mind, it's like, I'm gonna teach this young pup a thing or two. And it's like, they have this new secret way of doing something. And it's like, most of the time it's not new or secret. And also it's not good or accepted. But dude, this is like, a lot of guys don't know about this, and I can't think of anything specific. I wish I could.
Well, don't, because.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's probably true.
I was like, dude.
But, and you're sitting there, you got to be like, oh yeah, dude. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Kind of go along for the ride.
Well, you don't check them? You don't try to educate them?
I do a vibe check. If the vibe is clear that it's going to be well received, then I might do I'll start the dance. Steven's seen the dance before. The subtle, like, Jacob way to like, yeah, oh yeah, well, have you thought about, we'll start the little dance. But there's some guys that just don't want to dance. They're there to just tell you information
and then leave.
And then smack the deck, or I mean the deck. Hit the deck. No, smack the counter, and you guys, have fun with those black rifles on the wall, and then they just bail out of there, and you're like, sick, dude. But there's guys like that,
yeah,
and you just let them go back out into the world to just
continue to
smash through life.
I was about to say, continually give people poor education.
Yep, just wrecking balling around, dude. Just an icebreaker out there, just smashing through.
Yeah,
but
what do you do? Some people are pretty set on their ways, though.
Yeah,
so
it's fine. And again, it's not. I'm not. I don't want to just be that guy. I've always hated that gun store that's like, well, actually, and it's like, if some people want to learn, you'll find that out quick. And some people don't, then cool, dude. It's not your time yet, Like at some point you get there where it's like,
yeah,
oh, you know what? Something happened or something makes sense, or whatever. But some people, it's just,
we've had that moment too. Like customers that were just very ignorant, and it's like they just weren't ready to learn, and then they had something happen where they're like, man. And it's kind of just like, you're just in the back of your head, you're just thinking like, dude, finally.
Yeah.
Finally you figured it out. Like, you either had to learn the hard way, or you just like, I don't know.
Or it just clicked.
It all of a sudden clicked. It just made sense. And it's like, man, kind of trying to say that for a while, but cool. I'm glad that you figured it out.
Right.
You finally figured it out on your own, I guess.
Yeah. Well, so the final kind of thing I want to touch on before we wrap this one up is having a good understanding and just in general knowing your local laws. So every state's got different laws. There's federal laws, but then every state obviously has their own laws of like what you need to do when it comes to carrying a gun. I honestly don't want to spend too much time here. It's as simple as, this is your responsibility. You need to go out and do it and do the research. Honestly, call the district attorney's office. Call your state attorney, and ask them like, hey, what do I need? I want to carry a gun for self-defense. What do I need to do?
Some people would say ask law enforcement too, but the problem is with them, sometimes they don't know.
Yeah, with my experience, law enforcement don't know the laws actually as well as you think.
Yeah.
I've had cops get weird about like certain guns I have. And I'm like, this is well, I don't know. This was a short barrel rifle. And you're like, no, it's got a pistol brace on it. And they like don't even understand. They're like, what? This is not a pistol. I'm like, it is actually. So there's things like that, and thankfully it's all gone well, but there's things like that just happen. They're just human. They don't understand. Like, they just don't know. It's almost impossible for them to know all the laws.
They know now. Maybe.
Yeah. But so but you can ask your local police station. I don't know. Part of me too, I would want to avoid like calling the police station because they usually get your like, can I ask who's calling? And they get your name and they're like, oh, now we know that Joe Davis or whatever wants to carry a gun, and then I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they're out to get you, but because most of like 99% aren't, but it's just different mentalities, different cultures, different states. Some places it's kind of if you're the type of person that wants to carry a gun, some departments in some areas view that in a negative light. So,
yeah.
But yeah, you need to familiarize yourself with the laws. That's just mandatory. Like if you're going to be responsible to carry, have the responsibility of carrying a gun, part of that responsibility is knowing how to do it legally. You need to obtain the necessary licensing. Like if there's some kind of license you need or some kind of permit that you need, then you got to get it. What?
I don't know.
Oh man, there's like a disco music thing going
EDM
on. Yeah, it's the EDC, dude. The electric.
They found us.
What is it? The electric dance carnival or whatever? No,
wasn't it? I don't remember.
What was it?
Was it Electric Dance Carnival?
No, it's something else. It was like something super weird and specific.
I don't remember now. We gotta go back to it because it's important for the podcast.
Yeah. Anyways, there's electric
Daisy.
Daisy, yeah. It's definitely Daisy. Electric Daisy Carnival going on next door. So in our neighboring unit. Hopefully it's not getting picked up. But anyways. Yeah. So get the licensing. Look into CCW reciprocity, like concealed carry license reciprocity.
Yeah, where you can carry it.
Yeah.
They have maps and stuff.
Oh yeah.
They?
Oh yeah. I'll put it in the description, but there's the USCCA has a map. Really cool. Like a lot of states recognize each other's concealed carry licenses, and this is why in Alaska you don't need one, but I would recommend getting one because it allows you to carry in a lot of other states. So if you travel, I would definitely get one because then you can go concealed carry in those other states, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
So, and then also you get NICS exemption, so you don't have to do the background check every time you.
Well, you don't automatically get that. You have to
apply for
that.
Yeah. But you can. You're eligible to apply for it, I guess, if you get your CCW.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, look into that. I'll put that in the description. But ultimately, I mean, laws are meant to be broken. No, I'm just kidding. You got to do, again, don't take any legal advice from this podcast, but no, but you got to do what's best. If you're in a place, if you live in an area where there's just no legal way you can carry, but you're like, dude, I feel like I have to carry, I feel it's the best option. There's the old adage of it's better to be
judged by 12 than carried by 6.
Judged by 12 than carried by 6. Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's true. It's especially true for like a loved one or something. Like, if I could do something to save one of my kids or my wife or something, and it puts me in jail, whatever, I will gladly sit in jail knowing that I saved my family. Now I'm not saying go do something outrageous and super illegal and whatever, but at some point, I believe that all these weird laws that we have are completely unconstitutional. Furthermore, they absolutely deny your inalienable God-given right of self-defense. So if you do live in an area where they make it impossible for you to legally carry, then you have to make a decision. Is it worth potential legal ramifications, or is it not? Or maybe it's not worth living there,
And furthermore, I mean, going into politics, like I don't want to go too far down this rabbit trail, but if that's important to you, and it should be, then start making, do your part in voting and stuff like that. I feel like, and try to encourage others around you as well.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's hard in some of those states that are very large and kind of hard to kind of flip the table, but I think it's possible. Like, I mean, it is possible. So,
Yeah. I'd say almost now more than ever, just because of how
how easy it is for education to.
Well, no, because of how much the side of the aisle, I guess, that is generally more anti-gun, how much failure they've had in dealing with the economy and stuff during COVID and even beyond.
Yeah.
That's why you see people in mass leaving California and going to Texas and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're done, they're over it, and they're being exposed to a new lifestyle, a new culture, and a culture that's been more economically successful. So maybe now's the time to really try to, in a friendly manner, help educate people, and more importantly, actually get involved.
Yeah.
Maybe those people that you never thought would get elected might get elected now. I don't know. But yeah.
Yeah, it's good education, though. It's all about education, man. Training's education. This whole podcast is trying to be
some
education.
kind of form of education. I don't know if it's good or bad, but
yeah, no, I think it's super important. I think this is obviously going to be probably a multi-part series where not that we're necessarily, this is part 1 of part 2 of this stuff, but I mean we're gonna hit this subject a ton of times.
Yeah, EDC in general will come up a lot because it's our everyday life. It's our first line, so to speak. It's like the stuff you have on you every day is the stuff that you're probably going to have on you when something goes down.
Yep.
So it's going to be, a concept, or not a concept, but it's going to be a topic we revisit multiple times. But yeah, this is just specifically more about handguns. And, we didn't get super specific about kinds and, here's how you go out and do things. And this is what you need to, that's not what it's about. It's the concept of a handgun, carrying one, choosing one, the mindset you need, how often to work with it.
And even if you already have the handgun, what to work on past that,
Yeah.
If you are that guy that's only shot 2 boxes of ammo and you're carrying it every day and you're hearing this podcast, it's man, I gotta get out and actually go out and train and actually work on some different things. Because
yep.
Yeah, I already have the handgun and whatnot, and it's a good handgun, but I don't even know, for one, how reliable this specific handgun it is. You can have a Glock that's could be just trash because the parts are all just worn out and destroyed.
Yeah, or maybe you got a lemon.
Yeah, so it's and then even on a personal level, how well are you trained? That, I think that's the biggest hiccup. But
yeah, and understanding that there's legal liability attached to every single bullet that leaves that gun in a self-defense situation.
Yeah,
got to have round accountability. You got to know for a fact that these rounds are going where I'm aiming.
Mm-hmm.
If you miss and hit somebody else on accident, you're in trouble. That's probably involuntary manslaughter. I don't know how they would do that. I don't know, but you're getting in trouble.
Manslaughter charges for that.
Yeah. So
that may get, I don't know. That's up to the judge, but I'm just saying, yeah, I mean, yeah, you got to know what's behind and around your target. I mean, ultimately, that's one of the,
and you got to be able to hit your target.
Rules, so.
Got to hit your target. So, yeah, I think to sum it up, make just kind of sum up the whole thing. Have a good why and understand it thoroughly. Make sure it's reinforced, and if someone were to ask you, why do you carry a gun? That's a good way to kind of help develop it. If you just had a random person I just, guns scare me. Why do you carry a gun? Having a good, easy to explain why, because if it's easy for you to explain to someone else, that means you've been able to explain it to yourself.
Yeah.
Choose a gun that makes sense. Don't get something that limits you. Don't get hyper focused on weird ammunitions and this gun was made in 1909 and it's just the coolest thing ever. It's Like, get something reliable, something that's going to last you, something that you know for a fact is going to shoot and shoot the way it's intended to shoot when you pull it out.
Yeah.
Back up that gun with immense training.
Mm-hmm.
Focus on it. Make it habitual. Do dry fire training. Do live fire training. If you get ammunition, different ammunitions and stuff like defense ammo, train with it too. Make sure you understand how your gun runs that ammo. Prioritize that, training around what you carry most, which is probably going to be your EDC gun. Make sure you're carrying it safely in a quality holster that is supported by a good belt. Make sure your wardrobe is dressed around the gun, so it's working with your gun, allows you to get to it safely and efficiently. It hides it well, and it doesn't impede anything related to your gun, and your overall effectiveness with it in case you need it. And then finally, know and understand your local laws. There's no excuse for it. No cop's going to give you the time of day if you're like, I didn't know that law. It doesn't matter. Ignorance is not an excuse when it comes to laws. You got to know it.
Yep.
But,
well, it was good talking to you, man. We'll do it again next time.
Until next time.
Until it's